Hi there, Randy Cross here, and thanks for joining me on the Randy Cross Podcast, Season 5, Episode 9. Tonight's entire podcast will include, basically two things. One will be an interview with Ron Pitts. If you've watched Fox Sports, he's now doing some work with CBS Sports Network. You know who Ron Pitts is. He's been a play-by-play guy. He's been an analyst. He does a lot of college football. He did a lot of NFL. He actually he went to UCLA like me, was drafted and played for the Bills and the Packers. But right after his career was over, he went into broadcasting, and he's been in it a long time. Not as long as me, but he's been in it a long time. A great guy, a great Bruin. And I'm really happy that he's going to join the show. And the other part of the show is going to be a feature. It's a roundtable discussion that we did on Inside College Football, which is a TV show that I'm on Tuesday nights from 9 to 11 on CBS Sports Network. And this roundtable discussion was about mental health. And it's kind of, I'll explain it to you, but it's sort of the other health crisis. And it's that other health crisis that not very many people are talking about. But first, let's go to Ron Pitts. Okay, as promised, I'm joined now by Ron Pitts, former UCLA Bruin. Lived in one of my favorite football areas of the country, Buffalo, New York, and we'll talk a little bit about that. Those are some football fans up there in Buffalo. Ron, thanks for joining me. I appreciate it.
Oh, Randy, good seeing you again, man.
Yeah. I mean, let's see. UCLA, you play a little Packers, a little Buffalo. You got into the broadcast business, which you've been in forever, which is commendable. And you got a son that plays at UCLA. You got a son that plays at Azusa Pacific. Life's been good, huh?
Yeah, life's great, man. everyone's healthy. How about that?
Yeah, absolutely.
I hope your family's healthy and everyone's doing well. But yeah, we got a kid over here at UCLA. That's my youngest one, Shay, and he's been there. He came in the tail end of Jimmy Moore, and I know you had a son that was there, I think, a couple years before he got there. He was under Jimmy as well. Yeah. And my other one he was at APU, Azusa Pacific. And during the pandemic, apparently it was just too much going on financially, too much going on socially, too much going on administratively, and they canceled the program. And It was kind of a shock. Yeah, this was going into his senior year, and this was kind of a shock, a big shock. So at the last minute, with the transfer portal completely full, he had to find a home, and so he is now back in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. That's Sioux Falls University. So my wife and I take a trip back to Sioux Falls just about every weekend to watch him play.
Sioux Falls, getting to that time of the year now, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, man. It was kind of that, that cold where it's not really cold and you can't say it's cold, but it's kind of that annoying chill. Yeah. Well, when we go back this weekend, we'll probably get some rain, and then after that, it could snow anytime.
Oh yeah, I believe people that live in those areas. I mentioned you having lived in Buffalo during your dad's coaching career.
Oh yeah.
I believe they refer to that kind of weather. It's two things. It's crisp, and it's autumnal. That's one of my favorite terms. Being a California guy. When I got, they had to fly us to snow playing in the Niners and stuff. We were always in great weather. And our team crack was always, the people go, do you mind going and playing in the snow? And no, man, I get to go home. But we'd hear those terms all the time. Well, it's crisp today. Or crisp. It's not really cold yet. It's kind of autumnal. I guess autumnal is what happens when the leaves start turning, right?
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah. Right. Okay. Beginning of autumn, fall. Right. Yeah. Yeah. My son caught a couple -21 days this past winter because I guess
Ooh.
They had an Alberta Clipper come down from Canada, and they set records for being the coldest winter in 30 some years, in South Dakota history.
Yeah,
So
that's saying something when you're setting records there.
Man, I'm telling you. And then how about that? So, I came out to UCLA from Buffalo. Okay.
Wow.
And then I get drafted right back to Buffalo. So something wanted me to be in that part of the country, man. I guess.
But when you came on your recruiting visit, and I know firsthand what kind of a recruiter TD, the late Terry Donahue, was, because TD recruited me out of high school. But coming out of Buffalo, you must have walked off that airport and onto that campus and just said, "Where are the angels and the harps?" I mean,
Randy, it should have been a violation. It really should have been, because you can't take a kid from Buffalo in the middle of January, put him on a plane, and then 5 hours later, he's in 75-degree weather. I'm on the set of then the show, Flamingo Road, with Mark Harmon, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I can't remember the woman's name. Anyways, but that was the show, man. That was like nowadays watching The Voice or something like that. That was it. And Jed Hughes, remember Jed Hughes?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Jed was kind of my personal guy there, my coach there, liaison, if you want to say, walking me around, showing me things. And I was done right there. All they had to do was just put the letter of intent in front of me right there, and it was a done deal, man. It wasn't fair.
Yeah. Hey, before we go too far away from UCLA, what do you think of that team this year?
Boy, they can be exciting at times, Randy, and they've got a lot of good things going. They got a lot of exciting players. The Charbonnet kid, just out from Michigan.
Did you see that block he made on the winning touchdown?
You know what? I didn't, because, like I said, we were back east, and I was long sleep because we had a 5 a.m. flight.
That's right.
But,
that's right.
Yeah. But it doesn't surprise me that he made a block. That kid, coincidentally, he went to high school with both of my boys here in LA at Oaks Christian High School.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So, yeah. So he's about 2 years younger. And, he was always that kid who could dominate the field. He was always that type of guy. So it doesn't surprise me that he's doing what he's doing. It does kind of surprise me that he parted ways with Michigan. I'm not sure what happened there. How that can be a lot of different things. But obviously he made the right choice, and we're glad he did.
That's great. That is great. Yeah, I'm excited for the Bruins. I'm excited for the Bruins fans. It's just I'm not sure I trust their quarterback. He's got a world of talent, but man, he's going to make one team really happy about every week. And last week it was Bruins fans, and hopefully I hope it's Bruins fans this week, and not the Oregon Duck fan.
That's right. And this Oregon team now, they're a BCS team, right? They're used to playing in big games. And so, they're going to come in, and they're going to punch them in the mouth, and UCLA's got to be able to punch them back, and it's going to be one of those games. And I think that's how it's going to go. It's going to, if UCLA can stay in it and go toe to toe with them. But as usual, the Pac-12, the Pac-10 that we know, is all jumbled up now.
Pac-8 when I was.
Oh yeah, Pac-8. Pac-8, Randy. Okay, that's right. When I got there, by the time I got there, it was Pac-10, and who joined? Was it Washington State and
Arizona State?
Arizona State joined. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It was Pac-10, but that the conference always turns upside down. And doesn't matter who started hot in the beginning. Right. By the end of this thing, man, it's going to be completely different. And we used to always say, hang in there. We'd always drop one that we shouldn't have dropped early, but then we'd hang in there, and later on down the road, something would change or somebody would get beat and things would flip around. And of course, you always had to go take care of the bullies across the town here. So that was always fun. Yeah.
It'll be fun. It's going to be interesting to see what they do.
Yeah.
coach wise, and now
boy.
slowly but surely other jobs. I mean, everyone assumes LSU gets the top person, but with that job available, and I got a sneaky suspicion, I won't name any names, but there's another huge job that might open up because of that coach taking that job down in LA at SC.
Exactly.
But it's gonna be crazy. It's gonna be really crazy.
Yeah, that's right.
Hey, before we get too far, I mentioned it, Buffalo. They are so in love with football in Buffalo. That must have been a pretty incredible area to sort of grow up and cut your football teeth in, because now it's the Bills Mafia. But even back in the Jim Kelly days, those fans were out of control. They were just crazy, and they loved to tailgate. They loved to show up to the games, and they love football.
Yeah, everything you said is true. Boy, I remember being down on that field. My dad was coaching there, and I was still in high school. And when 80,000 plus are in that place, it's a different aura. And interesting, Al Davis used to always say, whatever stadium that he could build next, or wherever he could move the team next, he wanted that playing environment to be just like Buffalo, because the fans were right on top of you, and there wasn't a bad seat in the entire stadium.
Mm-mm.
Because I used to walk around that thing and hang out that place, and they could get bad. I mean, they could get obnoxious and rude.
Oh, yeah.
and say they could hang right there with Philly fans, Giant fans, any other fan across the country that you think is belligerent and mean and tough. They were as good as they come. So, and that was fun as long as you're winning.
Well,
you don't get on the other side of that.
You were there before they were jumping through tables.
Yeah.
Doing the WWF elbow slam into tables.
Right. No, I was there long before that, where they were cussing us out for losing.
Yeah.
and then we started winning. Okay, and then it changed, and then it became the kind of environment you want to play in, though. Seriously, as a player, that's what you want.
Mm-hmm. Hey, what do you think? You talk about environment. What do you think of the world of college football right now? I mean, we've seen the NFL has been sort of the monster for so long, but college football has kind of like ebbed and waned and been great, then sort of seems to get quiet. But right now, it might be as good as we've ever seen it.
It is, man. These kids do things that we used to only dream of, when I was at that age. And I always say it's professional football. They just call it college football, but it's professional football. The facilities are better than most NFL facilities. Okay, number one. The money pouring through the program, and that's probably what's led to the NIL, which I've kind of got my own feelings about that. Yeah. But you're just talking about 70 to 80 independent contractors that are all pro-worthy, as far as their brand and what they bring to the school financially. And clearly there's a ton of money in college football, and there has been for quite some time. I'll tell you what surprised me more than anything. I started scouting for the NFL PA Bowl, Randy, about 5-6 years ago.
Right.
And, I had a chance to really walk around and get around the country and look at different campuses and everything. And I was shocked just how good the facilities are. And it's not like it was when we were in college. Okay.
No.
We were lucky to have a good weight room or a new locker room. These facilities are top notch, and the food, everyone is pretty much on some form of a training table. That's gone to another level.
The nutrition and all that. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, man. It's all gone to another level. And the coaches' salaries. Wow. You want to be surprised, man. Pull up some of the assistant coaches' salaries in college football. It's not uncommon to see a couple coordinators that are in the high 7s, 8s, and in a couple places like the LSUs and Alabamas. They're $1 million.
Yeah.
Coordinators, not the coach, the coordinator. And position guys are hanging around comfortably 300-400 on teams that really aren't even winning. So that is what really shocks me is the amount of money that has now trickled down into the college coaches ranks. I don't know if you remember at UCLA for a while there, Terry had trouble paying assistants. The school had trouble paying assistants to live in a place like LA. It's not like living in Pullman, It's
I remember when Dick Vermeil came there and Pepper Rogers, all the coaches lived in like Thousand Oaks.
Well, right.
Which if you're in LA, that's a healthy hour drive, and that's if there's no traffic.
No, that's a grip. No, that's with no traffic. That's an easy hour with, like you said, with no traffic. And that became a problem, years after that. How do I keep guys here? How do we entice coaches to want to come here when half of their salary is going to be gone, not just with taxes, but just with living expenses?
Yeah.
And then if they're married, okay, then the wife has to be happy and they got to feel comfortable, with the kids and schools and things like that. So there's a lot
crazy.
Goes into it around here.
Yeah, it really is. Hey, NIL, you mentioned it. I'm personally, not that I'm not a fan, I'm just not convinced that they really thought this 100% through when they enacted it. Because I think there's so many facets to this that are, because we always talk about compliance departments now in college football. And everything's got to run through compliance. Well, if you thought compliance was a tough job, work on the NIL side with all that endorsements and everything else and the cash and the money. And how do you legislate it? And B, how do you regulate it?
Well, that's my question. Regulation. So, when we come into school, okay, you've got to take, and I'm just being general here, every student athlete has to automatically go into, let's say, a quarter or semester of tutor program or study hall, okay, just to make sure you're going the right direction. Then you have a guidance counselor, okay, and then they're always checking on this because they want to keep the kids eligible. So there's a system in place for you to stay eligible, all right, when you come in as a player. But so how do you throw out a system like this where you say to kids, okay, go out and freely find your own endorsements, go out and sign a contract, go out and make a commitment financially? How do you do all of that and not give the kids some guidance there as well? I just think it's a recipe for disaster at some point. Can you imagine? I mean, how many kids know what in perpetuity means? Okay. How many kids understand double indemnification in contracts? How many kids even understand contracts? So, all of that's going on. I think, how we're always worried about the agent, the predatory agent going after kids. That was always a concern and still is to a degree. All right. So how is this different? Now people can go after these student athletes online, through social media. They can get to them easier. And a kid can make a deal, and all of a sudden he doesn't know what deal he's into. He hasn't looked at the details. That someone has to be there for them to guide them through that. I'm not saying they make the decision for the student athlete, but they have to have some kind of guidance because that's a new world for them. Listen, man, at my age, I still have to double and triple read contracts. Okay. And I've been doing this stuff. We've been doing this for a long time. So can you imagine throwing out like a network contract to one of these kids or something like that and say, oh yeah, hey, just sign this. Everything will be good. I'll take you out for a burger every now and then. They'll send you a couple pairs of sweats, and the guy signed or girl signed his life away.
Yeah. So, it's I'm not looking forward to kind of the after effects of some of this stuff.
Exactly.
Plus, when they find out about paying taxes, and they're going to find out here pretty quick about paying taxes. The NCAA has had such a limited role on the football side. They've basically been an enforcement agency for a while.
Yep.
This may lead towards maybe a bit bigger role, and maybe that's part of the idea.
Or no role at all.
No role at all, because that role is now taken over by the IRS.
Exactly. No, see, to me, I'm a firm believer that's a major component as to why this was finally okayed. All right. This certain states that have had financial issues, this is one heck of a way for them to come up with a new revenue source. And like you say, some of these kids have no idea what's about to hit them tax-wise. Randy, I didn't understand taxes until probably my second, third year in the league. And here's a great story. So I get my very first paycheck from Buffalo. And it's my signing bonus. And I look at it and I say, these clowns, they made a mistake. It's half of what it was supposed to be. I'm going to march upstairs and lay it on the general manager's desk and tell them they made a mistake, because I went to UCLA and I'm a scholar. That's what I'm going to do.
I know math.
I know math. That's right. I took all those business classes. So I march upstairs into Bill Polian's office, and I'll never forget the look on the secretary's face. I said, hey, I don't mean to be rude here, but I think you guys have made a big mistake on my check. It's only half. I'm supposed to get double that. And I begin to walk out, and I hear her just laughing hysterically. And I turn around and say, what's so funny? And then she doesn't say anything to me. She goes in to Bill Polian's office, shows him, he starts laughing hysterically. So I got the general manager and the general manager's secretary laughing at me. And finally, they tell me what the deal is. They said, Ron, welcome to New York State. Those are New York State taxes. And there you go.
I love it. I love it. Hey, who do you like this year college-wise? Who do you think at the end, if you were a betting person, or if you had to at least bet a dinner or something on a team, who would you pick?
Wow, Randy, I got to not incriminate myself here. I want to put our alma mater there.
Yeah.
I tell you, yeah. It's, boy,
have you seen the Georgia defense?
The Georgia defense? I have not. I've heard about it, but I have not.
Yeah, they're as good as you've heard.
Yeah, yeah. Boy, I tell you, I want to like Ole Miss, but in the Corral kid, he's from out here again. He played at my boy's high school, and I know he's up for the Heisman and all that. But I haven't. I know he's hurt. He nicked up a little bit, but they just seem. I don't know.
Ron,
I don't know.
Ron, he ran the ball 30 times last week. You think he's a little sore?
You think
30 times as a quarterback?
Has Lane figured that out yet? I don't know. But
by Monday, this last Monday, it probably settled in pretty good when he saw him.
Oh gosh, yeah. I don't know, Randy. I got to tell you, I don't know. Michigan has come out of nowhere. All of a sudden, they're clicking. I don't know. I think I'm looking at Michigan right now. I like that Georgia team. I like the defense. Alabama, even with a loss, I can never take them out of the picture. Hard to say what's going to happen here in the Pac-12. UCLA had the big win against LSU, but then they turn around 2 weeks later after a bye and get beat by Arizona State. Arizona State gets beat. Who did they get beat by? No, it wasn't Stanford.
Well, when it's all said and done, whoever wins the Pac-12 might have 2 losses.
Yeah.
And with 2 losses, you aren't going to the playoffs.
You're not getting in. It doesn't matter. You're not getting in anyway. Right. So yeah, those would be my teams. I mean, that's who I like.
All right. Hey, I'd love to do this again. We could talk and do this for a couple hours probably.
Oh yeah.
Really enjoyed it, and I appreciate you joining me.
Randy, it's been great, man. Now I'm looking on your wall back there. I see a couple pictures there. Now, off to your left shoulder. Mm-hmm. Is that coming out for a coin toss, right?
Let's see.
Or is that your right shoulder here? Because everything. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that one straight ahead. Yeah, right in the back.
Yeah,
there.
that's actually at Tampa. It's Michael Carter, Ronnie Lott, and I. We were captains. It was like a second game of the year or something back in about 84, 85.
Oh, man. No, that's a great picture. Now, every picture goes up on the wall for a reason. Why did you put that one up? There's a story behind that somewhere.
I was a captain. We won the game, and it was free.
There you go.
Every time you were a captain with Bill Walsh and you won, he gave you one of those. You got one of those.
Yeah.
Now, one of the few like personal ones on my wall is the one back, almost dead behind me there. The fearsome
foursome. That's who that is.
Because I'm an LA kid. I'm an LA kid.
Yeah.
I grew up. I played high school football at Crespi. I went to UCLA. I was a Rams fan till they broke my heart too many times.
It's funny you should mention that, Randy. Funny you should mention that. That, they appear to have it all together right now, but that's the one carrot hanging over their head, and it goes back in history to what you're talking about. And my dad was here coaching during those times, from the Chuck Knox era in the 70s. It was either the Minnesota Vikings or the Dallas Cowboys that would knock them off every year, every single year in the NFC Championship game or round 2. It was unbelievable. So
in the 60s, it was the Vikings, the Packers, or the Browns.
In the 60s,
the Rams that had the best record in the West. Yeah. And one of those teams had come out and they beat their butts in the playoffs, and it was like, okay, great. Yeah, so that's I just couldn't do it. I couldn't do it anymore. I know. You're not alone. To my dying day, I'll be a Merlin Olsen fan. I got to meet him a couple times as a kid. Yeah. And he was unbelievable. Yeah. But that team just disappointed me too many times when I was little.
I know. But Randy, you're not alone. No, that's kind of in the back of everyone's head or closet in LA here is, okay, Rams, don't do it to me again. And they made it to the Super Bowl a few years back, but took the L. So it's still lingering.
Well, tell me about it. I live in Atlanta.
Yeah.
So they've got a few scars themselves.
Oh yeah.
Ron,
a lot of scars.
Thank you so much.
All right,
I
Randy,
appreciate it.
Always fun, man. You take care of yourself, brother. And stay
you
healthy.
be well, and stay warm in Sioux Falls, will you?
I'm gonna try. And in the meantime, I'm here in Southern Cal, so I'm doing okay.
Yeah, you'll be okay.
I'll be all right.
See you later, man. Thank you.
Man. See you.
All right. Bye-bye. All right, hope you enjoyed Ron. Isn't he a great guy? Like I said earlier, one of the great Bruins. Like we talked about, he's got a kid that plays for the Bruins, and he's a fun guy to discuss football with. And as you can tell, he loves his life. So I promised earlier we were going to show a segment of my show that's on CBS Sports Network, which is called Inside College Football. And it's Adam Zucker, Aaron Taylor, Brian Jones, Rick Neuheisel, and myself. And the conversation had to do with mental health. And, mental health is not the most popular subject. Heck, health isn't a very popular subject these days. Everybody's an expert. Everybody wants to tell each other about their health. Everybody knows what's best for your health. Well, we had this conversation about the one subject that not enough people, A, ask for help, B, know anything about, or C, know what resources you can direct people to. All right? Well, let's go to that conversation. I hope you enjoy it.
What a wonderful resource for student athletes to have. And it has to be a double whammy for these kids. You don't have to be a college athlete. You could be a high school athlete where you had the experience of your routine and the value you get through sports and the glory, the adrenaline over here versus, the perception of, well, no, you're supposed to be tough and a champion. And why would you complain about your life? Just because you can't play your game right now.
Yeah, no doubt. This is a really interesting subject. And the way that we can tackle these things is by doing three things, right? First, creating awareness, then decreasing the stigma, and then increasing the avenues to better outcomes, right? Solutions, if you will. So we are at the single greatest period of sustained uncertainty we've ever seen worldwide in the modern era. And you add to the election to that, you add Black Lives Matter to that. we have been through a lot, particularly in this country, so the uncertainty piece is huge. So the International Olympic Committee did a study, and 45% of student athletes experience depression or anxiety. That's 5 of 11 in the huddle. That's like your entire offensive line are suffering depression and anxiety. You go to all defensive backs on the other side, you got a lot of people on the football field that are going through it. So unless we address this, it's likely to get worse before it gets better if we don't take action. But BJ, we were talking about some things before about the stigma of this, where it seems like you're weak if you're talking mental health. Fellas, mental health is health, right? Your tooth hurts, you go to the dentist. Your back hurts, you go to a chiropractor. But when it comes to mental health, we go, Right. And the reason why is because we feel weak. There's this stigma of weakness. Dr. Brene Brown is a professor, a PhD professor down at the University of Houston. She's done TED Talks. She's done all these different things. She had the best description of vulnerability that I've ever heard. She was talking to some Navy SEALs, and she said, these are the 3 factors of vulnerability. 1 is uncertainty. Number 2 is risk. Number 3 is emotional exposure. And she challenged these Navy SEALs, this spec op guys, can any of you show me an act of courage that didn't require uncertainty, risk, or emotional exposure? Everybody at that moment got it, that what they did on the fields of battle required the very same things that are necessary when they get home and have to deal with the things that they're dealing with. And I'm for one, and I love conversations like this because we have a chance to flip the page on what mental health really is on our way to be able to eradicating it or certainly improving the everyday situations for people.
Listen, there are certain things that you don't fully get over. Me speaking personally, you got to find a comfortable place to put them. And the way you arrive at that comfortable place is conversations such as this. It's communication, whether it's your inner circle, it's someone in that huddle, that locker room. USC, they've got the resources there on campus. Me, it was this show a couple years ago, and it was because of you. You helped me break through a wall of fear and deal with some childhood demons. We had an episode on this show where we were going to discuss Jerry Sandusky and the ordeal there at Penn State. And unbeknownst to me, Aaron and I had unfortunately shared some experiences as children, and we reached out to our then producer, Tim Weinkoff, and thanks to Tim and thanks to Aaron, we held that conversation, but you really pulled me across the finish line because closer we got to that episode, my feet were cold as ice, and you assisted me in the outpouring, overwhelming reaction to that episode was just phenomenal. There's so many people out there that are hurting and dealing with issues. And lastly, I want to thank the lady I call Mom because I wanted to share with her, someone who I've shared everything that's happened in my life with, except for that traumatic experience. Prior to that episode, I wanted to talk to her. One of the hardest phone calls I've ever made in my life. And while she was very supportive, she gave me some great guidance, which I abide by to this day, which was either you allow that traumatic experience to control you or you control it. And the only way to control it is to have a dialogue, to try to come to terms with it, and stop blaming yourself. And I am grateful for this show. Way back when we first broached this topic, and I'm so thankful for you as a friend and as a colleague here, and I'm forever indebted to you for helping pull me across the finish line and make that story known.
Both you fellas have been unbelievably open with the cameras, with our television audience, and with us who get to be around you, fortunately, as often as we do, in sharing what's happened in your lives and how you got over it, right? Randy and I are from a little older school, right, where social media wasn't part of our existence in our locker room. We didn't have cell phones. We didn't have any of that. And the tough guy mantra in the locker room was alive and well, right? It was always about toughness. You're going to gut your way through it. That's just whether it was the conditioning drill, whether it was the coach picking on you, whether it was the fact you weren't playing, you were going to gut your way through it. There was no transfer portal. Just find your way, right? And a call home was about the only psychologist you had. Yeah. And I think it's really cool that we are in an era now where the conversation can be above board, The conversation is a healthy conversation, and there are resources for people to reach out. Social media has taken this to another level. The pressures on these young people as they look at their phones and deal with peer pressures that exist from grade school through high school. They're not invited to this party. Or their buddy's not invited to another party. How you deal with all that and how you navigate all that is a minefield. And yet, we're getting there because people now are professionals and saying it's okay. As you say, mental health is health. And we're all about health, and I just think it's refreshing that you fellas are as open as you've been about these issues, and hopefully it's opening doors for everybody that's watching.
I mean, it's fantastic we can talk about it. Traveling as much as we do, doing games, besides doing this, every city you go in, mental health is in your face, something fierce. I mean, it's an epidemic that no one talks about. You know, it's great to kind of get in this corner and talk about it with sports. If mental health's a pie, sports is this little sliver of the pie. Those people living on the streets, those people you see constantly, that's mental health. Those are the faces of mental health, besides the athletes, besides the family and people like that. And entities like social media, you put the internet and social media together, plus with humans, it's a bad combination. It's got no business being together. And I'm not calling for, the censorship and everything else. I just think people have to be aware. If you've got kids, you've got teenagers, they're dealing with it. Bullying used to happen in a class. Now it happens 24/7. And that has as much of an effect on mental health as anything else in our country.
They can reach you in your bedroom.
Well, normally it's a laugh a minute kind of on that show, but occasionally we do get serious. I'm very, very proud of that group. The stuff that all of us were talking about, Rick and BJ and Aaron is incredibly insightful, and I think it's stuff that you've got to be willing to just say something. You got to ask for help. You got to be around people, and it's not being pushy. It's not being, a creep if you're asking how people are. Because usually when you ask somebody how they're doing, 99.9% of the time they're going, I'm doing pretty good, or I'm doing okay. Well, that line, I'm pretty dang far from okay, comes to mind. And a lot of people these days, probably getting close to about half the people in our population, are pretty dang far from okay. Hope you enjoyed this show. Want to remind you where you found it. Best place to go is randycross.com. Go there to the website. That's where it lives. If you go to YouTube, subscribe, hit the like button. Please subscribe and hit the like button. That really, really helps out. Forward it if you liked it. In that regard, that is across all these platforms, whether it's Twitter or Facebook or Instagram, whatever. Please forward it and let your friends know about this. And if you like it, great. Send us a note, producer at randycrosspodcast.com, and we'll get that message out there. All right. So let's go out like we normally go out, and that is with a little happy trails.